بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. نوايا تعلم وتعليم وتذكر وتذكر نفع وانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وكره ثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية من رحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني وشر صافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني وشر صافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني وشر صافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الفصل السابع في ولادة والديها Al-Hassan wal-Hussein. So on the 7th chapter, we're there, we finished her marriage. So we're on the 7th chapter about her births. The two births, the births of her two sons. And you know that Sayyidah Fatima Zahra actually had 6 children. Right, 6 children, 2 of them died in infancy, right? And 4 of them grew up into adulthood. Her daughters did not bear any children. They got married, they grew into the age of a marriageable age, but neither of them bore children. And so there's no lineage from the daughters, right? But of course Sayyidina Hussein, there is lineage, right, from there. Even Sayyidina Hussein, technically his lineage cut off from all sides except from Sayyidina Ali Zain al-Abidin, right? Because the entire family were massacred, right, at Karbala. So at Karbala, the entire family was killed. So as Al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, right, it is important for us to also understand these entire issues in the history of Islam. Like what happened at Karbala, why was the family massacred, and then eventually the only person that was left was Sayyidina Ali Zain al-Abidin, and from him continues the line of Sayyidina Al-Hussein. And Sayyidina Al-Hassan had an entire, a lot of descendants, right? So at Sayyidina Al-Hassan, you would find them, a lot of them are in Maghrib, in Morocco. A lot of them are in Africa. You find them there, and even in Syria and Sham and so on. You find the Al-Hassani, right? And they were always distinguished. They would say Al-Hassani or Al-Husseini. That is why for the Ba'alawi, you will find that they will say Al-Husseini. You find in their names, right? So they say Al-Ba'alawi, Al-Shafi'i, Al-Husseini, right, from Sayyidina Al-Hussein. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I think in further sessions we'll take 2 chapters each, right? So as to finish, we have 9 more, till 7th one. So there are 7 more chapters actually, in fact 8 more chapters, counting this. Yeah, now. So I think we can make it in time. We're in Sha'ban right now. Actually, we can make it in time because we have 4 more weeks of Sha'ban, right? Right? So inshallah, maybe 1 lesson per day is always possible. We can make it time. Inshallah. Okay, now. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. ولما استقر الزوجان في بيتهما الجديد على مقربة من سيدنا رسول الله صاحب الخلق الحميد مرت بهما الأيام في هناء ووئام وهي وإن لم تكن حياة ترف وعيشة رغيدة إلا أنها كانت هانئة وسعيدة. وفي العام الثالث من الهجرة استقبلا في فرح جلي طفلهما البكر الحسن بن علي وزفت البشرى بالنبأ السار إلى النبي المختار فجاء مسرعا إليه وأخذه بين يديه ويتأمله والقلب بالفرح ممتلي فإذا هو شبيه بالنبي لا شبيه بعلي. وكان أول ما وصل إلى سمعه عند وضعه صوت جده سيد الكونين حيث رتل في أذنه الآذان وقبل أن يكمل العامين وضعت الزهراء شقيقه الحسين فسر النبي بهذين الغلامين المباركين وقرت بهما العين وقد شاء الله الكريم العلي أن تكون ذرية المصطفى من فاطمة وعلي من ابنيهما الحسنين ريحانتي سيد الكونين وما برح رسول الله يزورهما بين الحين والحين ويحفون به مستبشرين فرحين فيا حبذا من محفل فخيم ومجلس كريم يجلس في صدره رسول الله علي عن يمينه وفاطمة عن يسراه والحسن والحسين في حجره ما شاء الله لا قوة إلا بالله فعليهم جميعا بعد نبينا الكريم أفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم رضي الله عن فاطمة الزهراء وأرضاها وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله أزكى صلاة وأنماها اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله. Okay, so this chapter is on her two sons, right? So it says here, so as the two newlyweds, right? So they're newlywed, mashallah, and this is the miracle of the Fatima az-Zahra. She has never gotten any nifas nor menses. Right? This is her karama. It's part of the karama of the Fatima az-Zahra. Right? No haid wala nifas. Right? So she would literally give birth, right? And then she would get up and do her ghusl of wilada, of birth, and then pray her Isha. Right, so mashallah, wow, mashallah. it's a khususiyah, right? Something that is special for her. It's for her, right? So and only her. For other women, if you're not getting your menses by a particular age, it's a a cause for concern. Why you're not getting your menses? Right? If a woman goes through birth without any nifas, also a cause for concern. I would say the Fatima Zahra is a karama. It falls in the karama, right? So it's a, you would say, miracle, right? That happened to the Sahaba. Sahaba also have karama, like how, of course, the prophets have mu'ajiza, like miracles. So those who are non-prophets, they have karama. As Sayyidina Umar, Sayyidina Abu Bakr, and so on. You will find that each and every one of them will have the karama that happened in their lifetime. MashaAllah. So the Fatima Zahra as well, right, had karama that happened to her. We spoke about how she brought some food to Rasulullah that was very little. Then when he opened it, it was filled, right? The pot became full of bread. And then he said, Ya Fatima, anna laki hadha. And he was quoting from the story of Maryam, right? From when Nabi Zakaria came into the room and said, Ya Maryam, anna laki hadha. Right? So like, where do you get this from? And so he said, same thing to Fatima Zahra, Ya Fatima, أن لك هذا. And he said, هو من عند الله إن الله يرزق من يشاء بغير حساب. Right? And then she quoted from the Quran again. How Sayyidina Maryam quoted, and Sayyidina Maryam answered Nabi Zakaria, and he said, Maryam, where did you get this from? And then she answered, it's from Allah. Allah gives whomsoever He wants without any limit. So the Fatima Zahra, because of some said the question the way Nabi Zakaria said it, right? So she responded the way Sayyidina Maryam responded. وَإِمِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَرْزُقُ مَن يَشَاءُ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. It's from Allah, subhanallah. Right? That is also one of the karama of Sayyidina Fatima Zahra, to show that she reached the levels of every great woman. So that was a miracle of Sayyidina Maryam, radiallahu anha. Right? And this was the miracle in Sayyidina Fatima az-Zahra, the similar miracle that Allah gave food without any cause for it, and the food just appeared in front of her. With regards to her children, right? So all of her children came without haid. Right? There was you think you need haid, right, to ovulate and so on and so forth, and they get pregnant and everything. So it's beyond science. Right? She just got pregnant, alas. And she got pregnant 6 times, in fact. Right? And then each time gave birth without a single drop of blood. It's nothing. Right? Just birth and khalas. She's done, mashallah. MashaAllah. It's all the people that Allah has honored, right, with karama. And this is the miracles. Right? So they were in a new house, right, and near the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who has the most praiseworthy character. And it was said that Rasulullah's house, the Fatima Zahra's house, there was a window in between, right? So, and it will come later on, so whenever he wants to speak to her, he just opens the window and he speaks to her, And when she wants to speak to him, she opens the window, she speaks to him, mashallah. So they have a window between. It was that the houses around Rasulullah's house was already taken, the spots were already taken. Right? And there was a particular Sahabi that whenever Rasulullah SAW would get married to another wife, like his house was close to Rasulullah to the masjid. So he would move his house back. He would move his house behind to make space for a new wife of Rasulullah. So when Sayyidah Fatimah Zahra was to get married, right, Rasulullah was too shy, like, to ask this Sahabi, like, could you make space? So he didn't ask. And when the Sahabi saw that, Sayyidina Ali had, gotten a place that was quite far from the masjid. Like, Sayyidina Ali, his husband is like looking, where do I put my wife? Right, so he found a place that's a bit far from the masjid. And so when the Sahabi saw that how, it affected Rasulullah SAW, that his daughter was now a distance, away from him, the Sahabi approached Rasulullah SAW and said, Ya Rasulullah, take my house. Right, just take. And he gave to Rasulullah, because he knew it would bring happiness to the heart of Rasulullah SAW. Being next to Fatimah Az-Zahra. There was a window that was between them. He could look into her house and she could look into his house anytime. MashaAllah. Right, so so the days went by, right, in all goodness and sweetness, right, in the married life of this very young couple, mashallah. Sayyidina Ali, he was said to be 23 years old, and Sayyidah Fatima Az-Zahra was 18. 18 and 23. Very young couple, mashallah. Right, so and there is a story, right, whereby Sayyidah Fatima Az-Zahra once said, Sayyidina Ali, Ya Ali, she said, in Mecca, I will always hear of this young man, who was a great Muslim and so proud and so brave and so, with great akhlaq and so on and so forth. My father Sallallahu would always praise this young man, and I used to admire him. Sayyidina Ali, he felt something in his heart, and he was like, so are you disappointed that you married me instead of that guy? And then she said, it is you. It was you. Made him jealous for a while. Then he said, it's you. MashaAllah. And this is one thing that Hababa Maryam, she shared with us once, about the beauty of, when she said that here, they have this thing called betrothal. Betrothal. Right, so betrothal is basically, there's a promise between families, right, whereby I marry my son to your daughter, right? So they have this, in time it still goes on, right? So when someone has a daughter, someone has a son, they actually approach the other family and say that I want your daughter for my son. And the kids are like 5, 6 years old. they're still children. So, but it's called betrothal. Right? They used to do it in the times of the kings and because to get our kingdoms together, right? So the Habaib do it. Because I mean, if you have a daughter and Habib Umar has a son of like a few years older, you will like, I'm gonna call dips. I mean, you would do it, right? You're like, you call this on your son. Or your daughter, chop, like you should chop, like call dips on it. Right, so Mariam told me that, when she was growing up, she was always told by her father, Habib Ashur, that this particular individual, who was from the extended family, and he was a boy at the time, he will be your husband. It's a betrothal going on, right? So she was always, when she was growing up as a girl. So she said that since she reached puberty, right, and it's natural for girls to attach their hearts to men. It's natural, and in our culture we call it a crush. In our culture, right? So it's something natural. And in fact, in our zaman, if your girl is liking a boy, you will have Alhamdulillah. Because it's not a girl. In this zaman, right? You're like, Alhamdulillah. Fitra, ya Allah, fitra. It's natural. MashaAllah. I have met students who have gone through the calamity of their own children being gay. Right? So that is a severe calamity. Like, at least if you know the child is interested in someone else, there is a way to marriage. But if it's homosexuality, it stops there. It's haram. You gotta get out of it. You gotta do your istighfar, cleanse yourself, and so on. So in our countries, it's becoming more and more rampant, right? So which is why our scholars say that if your children express to you, and it's natural that in the teenage years that they are interested to get married, or they're looking at a girl or a boy. Right? So for a boy looking at a girl and for a girl looking at a boy. Right? So natural. Right? But Islam gives you a halal path, right, to it. Right? So how Mariam said that since she reached puberty, her heart never looked at anyone else except the boy that will be her eventual husband. How beautiful is that? Like you never even consider anyone else. Like how many times I mean we're all from the same background, kind of. You go through school, you go through high school, you go through you have like all these random like it's a waste of emotion, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of all kinds of things. But because you are in a state whereby you have reached puberty and your body is responding, right, to the opposite gender, so it's natural. Right, so you go through all kinds of nonsense, you see, right, until you finally get married to somebody else. Mashallah. So when she told us of that, it is a beautiful thing, right, betrothal, right, because then you never actually had feelings for anyone except the man who will be your husband. You're so protected, and you don't waste so much time liking all kinds of guys as you grow up. And it's something that we know happens in our society. Even when if you're from madrasah background, from secular background, as long as there is a mix of boys and girls in the school, they're all teenagers, even in a masjid setting, like in Singapore, a masjid setting, the youth of the masjid, they begin to get involved with each other. Right, in the MSAs, MSA is like a breeding ground, and in the Muslim society, in a university. It's just boys and girls all, they're all looking for marriage, yes, but then they go into relationships first. Right? It's something that is la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So mashallah, some of my friends in Singapore, they have taken the idea, right, and they have approached families that they like the akhlaq of the child, and they have, like, in a sense, they have suggested to the parents, like, if you like my daughter, I like your son. Right, so they have done that. I've done, all my friends, they have done that. And then there's an agreement in the family members, but as they grow older, we will see how it goes. So in a sense, it protects the girl, right, from having crushes and from being interested in other boys, and you're like, I found someone for you already. It's a good girl. You say to your son, right, it's a good girl, I like her, I'm sure you like her. Mashallah. And it stops the entire dating, searching, whatever, right? Because you kind of like you really see all the good ones, and you call dibs. Like, you for my son, I'm gonna keep you. Mashallah. But mashallah, Sayyidah Fatimah Zahra, mashallah, she said that Sayyidina Ali, like, in a sense, right, there was already like, they knew, right, there was gonna be a marriage between these two. Right? So when Rasulullah, he knew. And he was waiting for Sayyidina Ali to come forward, right, to propose marriage to Fatimah Zahra, because nobody else, right, would be suitable for her. Then Sayyidina Ali, so they had a very beautiful marriage, mashallah. Very, very beautiful. And in fact, this book goes into the death of Sayyidina Fatimah Zahra, right, and the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. First, Sayyidina Fatimah Zahra, and it goes into some lines of poetry said by Sayyidina Ali. Right, at that point whereby he lost his two most beloved people, one after another, in 6 months. Right, and basically you will see his poem later on. He says some lines of poetry, but he says that the death of Ahmad after Fatima, Fatima after Ahmad, right, shows me that there's no happiness in this world. And he lived his life in Ali, to 63. He reached 63, Sayyidina Ali. So when Sayyidina Fatimah Zahra passed away, she was 28, which means that he was 33. 33. Right, so 10 years of marriage to her. Right, she's 18 to 28. Right, so 10 years of marriage to her, 33 young men. Right, he married again after that. He had other wives, Sayyidina Ali. So there are of the scholars where, and I can't think of the names right now, but they will say this person bin Ali bin Abi Talib bin, and they mention the mother's name to show it's not from Sayyidah Fatimah Zahra. It's from another woman. So Sayyidina Ali he had children, yes, from other marriages after Sayyidah Fatimah Zahra. While he was married to Sayyidah Fatimah Zahra, he was not allowed actually. Rasulullah would not allow him to marry another. So 10 years monogamous Sayyidah Fatimah Zahra. There was a disallowed, because of the heart of Sayyidah Fatimah Zahra. Right? And it's obvious that the only person who is grieved by multiple marriage is the first wife. Because the second wife entered in anyway, right? So she entered as an already existing marriage. She entered. So if the husband marries third and fourth, and she was a second, right? So the only one who actually grieves the most is the first wife. Right? But of course, for the first wife, if someone marries more than one, or they have like co-wives, right? It is a lot of reward for them, right? Because of it's an inherent pain that's there. Unless you don't love your husband or you couldn't care less what he does. I marry, good. Let them, serve you. I mean, if someone does that, and I got so bored of my husband. No, astaghfirullah.
Maybe that person has like good intentions.
If good intentions, but still there'll be a hurt. As long as you love your husband and you have and you want him to be with you and so on, there is a hurt. Right, that's there. The only situation is there won't be a hurt is in the sense that you have lost interest in him. In a sense. And you're like, and then you want more children and so you're like, get another wife please. Or something. Like, don't ask from me. I mean, I know of people who are like that. They actually want their husbands to get another wife. Right, because he's too demanding. So they actually try to go find someone else. And ask her. For me is that I think Allah spare me of this test. I cannot take it. Allahu Alam. We think we can. We don't know if it happens, whether you can take it or not. And my husband's like, he can't take another wife. It's like, one is enough. Alas, think of the house, think of finances, think of time and everything. It's like, how do you have another one? Mashallah.
We went with Ziyarah of the main mosques today, and one of the mosques is Masjid Safa. Has this black place on the walls outside. And they told us people who are not married come here and they hold their hand here. That's why it's become black, and they make dua about marriage because of the barakah of that place. So while the Sheikh was telling us this, a random uncle comes up, and I was just standing a bit on the side. So he says to my husband, make dua. And my husband said, no, I'm mutazawij, I'm married. So the uncle puts my husband's hand on the neck, so it says, second wife, inshallah. My heart just drops.
You just say, Ya Allah, children, not wives, children. Give more children. You just change it up.
I don't know, I just blacked out.
Inshallah, it will manifest as zuriyat, as children.
Everyone
inshallah.
Allah. For them, it's adi, it's normal.
I know.
Even when we were traveling once through Jordan, my father, my mother, so the driver asked my father, how many kids you got? So I have like 5 brothers and 2 sisters, 2 of us. So my father was like, 5 boys and 2 girls. And the man was like, MashaAllah, how many wives do you have? And then my father was like, one at the back. So all the boys from that one? MashaAllah, tabarakallah, 1 wife and 5 boys. MashaAllah. They still have this thing about the boys. You got 5 boys from 1 woman. Ya Allah. It's a culture. It's the Arab culture.
He was actually not joking. Like,
they're not joking.
He meant it in a very
it's normal.
Yes, it's here for you.
It's a very normal thing.
Because this is such a best place.
It's a very normal thing, mashallah. Ya Allah. But many of the Habaib themselves, they remain monogamous for a long time, then they marry more in their older age. following the way of Rasulullah. So Rasulullah was with Sayyidah Khadija was 13 years, in fact 10 years in fact. He was 25 years before Prophet, right? 25 years, from the age of 25 to the age of 50, he lived with her. Right? Then she passed away when he was 50. Then there were 3 years before he migrated. Right? So there were 25 years he was monogamous. Right? So anyone who says that he married out of passion or lust or whatsoever, 25 years, young men, one woman. Then thereafter, when Islam became political, right, then you see the marriages happen, and this was only 10 years. So technically, he was polygamous for 10 years, monogamous for 25 years. And that itself is the proof, right, that it was not he has no lust for women, right, but it was all in the spread of the dawah. Sayyidah Khadijah, mashallah, one woman, one woman show, mashallah. Mashallah. But so that's Habib Umar, he was with Habib Nur for the longest time. Then towards his old age, then he married more to increase children. That is the main reason, to increase children, so that more of them carry a da'wah. Mashallah. But they are monogamous for very long. Then they become polygamous when the first wife is unable to bear any more children. So then they go on to other wives. They go for younger wives for the point of having more children. Mashallah. It's all for da'wah. This da'wah. Mashallah. You see Habib Umar's children, every single one of them, each and every one of them a da'i in their own right, mashallah. Strong, and he homeschools every one of them at his hands. He brings them up. If you've been to his house complex, he has a complex that's like beyond the ditch, right? There are 4 houses that are exactly the same. These are his 4 wives. Right, but Habanul doesn't stay there, she stays here. But she has a house there. She does have a house there. Right, but she doesn't stay there. She stays here. She's the first one, okay? the queen, mashallah. Queen. So she's here. So but if you go there, his kids play in the complex. They're kept in, protected, right, from influences from outside. So he's very protective over his children. So the Habaib, they don't actually send their kids to random schools, or like to public schools. They don't, because of the influences there. They keep their kids in until a particular age. Then they enter Darul Zahra, Darul Mustafa. Mashallah. They're so mashallah. So protective. Mashallah. In their interim, they're not even like, in Singapore or somewhere else. Mashallah. In the interim, when they're already afraid of the schools. Mashallah. Mashallah. Okay, alhamdulillah. We need to finish this chapter, inshallah. Mashallah. So she lived a very beautiful life, Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu. And she was happy and joyful in her life. In the 3rd year of Hijrah, in fact, the year after they got married. Right, so the births came year after year. Okay, year after year. So in the 3rd year of Hijrah, they got a great joy. Her first son, Al-Hasan bin Ali, was born. And in fact, when he was born, Sayyidina Ali took him and brought him straight to Rasulullah alaihi wasallam. And Rasulullah blessed him and kissed him and tahniq for him, and made adhan in his ears. And Rasulullah asked Sayyidina Ali, what have you named him? And Sayyidina Ali said, Al-Harb, Ya Rasulullah. Harb means war. Sayyidina Ali named his son War. Because when jihad and everything, like Badr's happening and Uhud's happening and whatever's happening. And so he said, Al-Harb, Ya Rasulullah. And Rasulullah said, La bal, huwa Hasan. Huwa Al-Hasan. Right? Beautiful or good. The meaning of Al-Hasan, good or beautiful. So then within a year, Sayyidina Al-Hussein was born, and then Sayyidina Ali, same thing, he took Sayyidina Hussein to Rasulullah, and he blessed him, and he made dua for him, and he tahniq Sayyidina Hussein, and recited the azan in the ears, and then asked him again, what have you named him? Sayyidina Ali goes again, Al-Harb, the war. And then Rasulullah said, rather, His name is Al-Hussein, the little Hassan. Right, Hussein means the little Hassan. Right, so it's a tasghir, and it's like a small one. MashaAllah. Like every name can be made a tasghir. Right, so like in fact the name Sumayya is from Samiyya. Samiyya becomes Sumayya. Like that. So Umar becomes Umair. MashaAllah. So that it's got tasghir. Make it small. MashaAllah. Right, so Al-Hasan become Al-Hussein. MashaAllah. So and they were beloved to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right, so and he said here, right, so and he is and the happiness is that Sayyidina Al-Hasan, he looked like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like Sayyidina Ali. MashaAllah. It was something that Sayyidina Ali used to be proud of. Right, that his son looked like the grandfather. MashaAllah, not like him. Whereas in that time, that if your son looks like your wife's side, this is the wife's side, right? If your son, because they take pride in their sons. So if your son looked like the maternal side, like it wouldn't be a thing to be proud of. They get upset about it, and they're like, why is your father? MashaAllah. Right, so but Sayyidina Ali was proud that Sayyidina Al-Hasan looked like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr, he used to play Sayyidina Hasan and take Sayyidina Al-Hasan as a baby and put him on his shoulder. Right, and then he would say, he would say lines of poetry, and he said, Ya Al-Hasan, Shabihul Nabi, la Shabihul Ali. Hasan, you look like the Prophet, not like Ali. And he would say it as poetry, and Sayyidina Ali would laugh, and he was like, it's true. He looks like Nabi, not like me. MashaAllah. And their love for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, MashaAllah. And Sayyidina Al-Hasan and Sayyidina Al-Hussein, right, they would call Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or they would treat Rasulullah as if he is their father. The Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's how they go so that close to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as if it was their father. Right, MashaAllah. MashaAllah. So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was very happy with the birth of these two blessed young boys. Right, they were the coolness of his eyes. Right, and then he would say that these two sons of mine, he would always call them his sons. Right, he would call Sayyidina Hussein, he would never say my grandsons, he would say my sons. These two sons of mine, right, they are leaders. Right, they are leaders. Right, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to always touch the lips of Sayyidina Al-Hasan, and he would touch the neck of Sayyidina Al-Hussein, and he would say, it is from here they will die. Right. He knew his grandsons would be killed by Muslims. So Sayyidina Al-Hasan, he was poisoned. Right. So he used to touch the lips of Sayyidina Al-Hasan. Right. He was poisoned. And then he would touch the neck of Sayyidina Al-Hussein. He was beheaded. Right. And Rasulullah used to say about Sayyidina Al-Hasan, that Al-Hasan, he is a Sayyid, he is a leader. And because of him, two great fractions of Muslims will be united. There was a prophecy of Rasulullah which happened later on. So when Sayyidina Al-Hasan, he came down from being a Khalifa. He was a rightful Khalifa, but Muawiyah was, in a sense, contending it. And so Muawiyah was holding on to his power, and Al-Hasan was holding on to power as well, and it caused the Muslims to be divided. So Al-Hasan eventually, without wanting this division in the ummah of his grandfather, right, he renounced the caliphate while he was more rightful. He renounced it. Right? And as when he renounced it, people people who used to support him will say to him that you are the disgrace of this ummah, you are humiliating us. And then Al-Hasan said that I don't want to be the person to split the ummah of my grandfather. So he stepped down from position while he was more rightful for it, right? And then the Muslims became united under Muawiyah, right? Thereafter, mashallah. So the prediction of Rasulullah that my grandson will be a uniting force between two great fractions of Muslims who cannot come to agreement, mashallah. And it happened in his time. Sayyidina Al-Hussein was very upset when Sayyidina Hassan stepped down. at that time. He was very upset with his brother was sitting down. But they saw the wisdom behind it, that he had, like, otherwise it's going to be war between Muslims. And that's fitna. Right? And he didn't want to be the cause of that war between Muslims. Like, mashallah. And so Rasulullah would go and visit them, like, every so often. Like, he would be full of happiness and joy. Like, he would be so proud, like, to be amongst them, and he would sit with them. And there was points whereby he came, right, with his family. So basically, there's a story where the Christians kept challenging Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and saying that Jesus is God, you know. And then eventually, this is in Surah, if I'm not wrong, Surah Ali Imran, if I'm not wrong, but one of the, mashallah, in the Quran, whereby Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Rasulullah that if they keep arguing with you, right, then say to them, fine, come, I'll bring my woman and my children and my people, and you bring your woman and your children and your people, and nabtahil. That means we will say together, may Allah's curse be on the liars. Because the Christians kept arguing, right? They were saying that Jesus is God. And they kept arguing with Rasulullah alaihi wasallam. So Allah told Rasulullah to do this. It's called ibtihal. And nabtahil. فَلَعْنَةُ عَلَى الْكَاذِبِينَ. And the curse of Allah is on the one who's lying. So they say, okay, tomorrow we'll do it, like a face off, you know. So Rasul came, he took a cloak, right, and he called Sayyidina Ali, Sayyidina Fatima, Al-Hasan al-Hussein, come within the cloak. So it's called Ahlul Kisa. Right, the Musalla of the Mustafa is called Musalla Ahlul Kisa. Kisa means cloak. Inshallah on Sunday we'll enter that Musalla. Right, so make sure you go. Right, to the Musalla Mustafa. I just go, mashallah. Try put your kids somewhere and go for Darul Mustafa. Don't miss Darul Mustafa. It's a different feeling altogether, mashallah. So it's called Musalla Ahlul Kisa, because he brought a kisa, a cloak, and he cloaked Sayyidina Ali, Fatima, Hasan al-Hussein, and he said, Ya Allah, this is my family. This is Ahlul Bayti. And then they waited. The Christians did not show up. Because they know they're not going to do this curse thing. They know it, because they know they're liars. They are liars, they didn't show up. And there's something that had they shown up, and had they done this thing whereby say, may Allah's curse be on the liar, right, Allah would have destroyed all the Christians. But they didn't come, they were too scared. Because they know they are lying. They're liars. Right, so he just did it with Sayyidina Hasan al-Hussein and Sayyidina Fatima Zahra. And then so that's where the Ahlul Kisa come in, and that is how we know who are the Ahlul Bayt. Because at that point in time, one of his wives was there, Sayyidina Salama was there. He said, Ya Rasulullah, can I enter? And he said, you are fine where you're at. You're fine where you're at. Right, so in a sense, he didn't allow for the wives to come in. So there's a horse. These are the Ahlul Bayt from these people. Right, so we get our riwayat from. MashaAllah. Right, and so MashaAllah. So Sayyidina Ali was on his yameen, and Fatima on his yasar, and Al-Hasan al-Hussein was in his lap. Al-Hijrihi meaning his lap. Right, and then he cloaked them. And these are my family. These are my Ahlul Bayt. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.
So did his other daughters have children? Are they considered?
They had children, but they all were cut off. So, like from Zainab, she had 2 children. Her son passed away in a young age, and her daughter grew. Umama, her daughter was Umama. She grew and she married, but she never had offspring. And then Sayyidah Ruqayya had 1 son from Sayyidina Uthman, who passed away young. Ali, his name was Ali. And then, Abdullah. Sayyidina Kulthum had no children. So they all cut off from all the other sides. Yeah, they also cut off. They all ended there.
and Sayyidina Fatima had another son,
Al-Muhsin, who passed away young.
He didn't have children.
He passed away as an infant.
So that's literally the only.
So even her daughters had no children. So the only two people who actually had progeny was Al-Hasan and Hussein.
Yeah, they're the only grandchildren to live to adult. Oh,
Yeah.
not adult.
Yeah, to live and to actually
And to
reproduce.
have-
Yeah, and to have children. Yeah, they're the only ones. Till today, their progeny has continued. Till today, mashallah. I say cut off from all other angles, mashallah, mashallah. So when you look into the Ba'awi history, we are learning it from Hawa Basal al-Kaf, we share Thursdays. So when you look at the Ba'awi history, you will find also that the Fakir Muqaddam had, his children, and there were of his sons that didn't have lineage. They cut off at them, and there were like one or two that carried on lineage. So it happens with every generation. There are of the children that it cuts off there. It stops there. Then there are children whereby they will continue the lineage. Down, mashallah. Mashallah, mashallah. Alhamdulillah, Fatihah.